Choice. Episode 12 begins with Teo in the columbarium, reminiscing about his mother. Heir decides to pay her respects and comforts Teo, emphasizing that he needs to keep going. Teo then goes back to the first home he bought in the town where he first met Heir. He reminisces about his journey, meeting Heir and planning to take Kamo down. Back at his city house, he tears all the pictures off of his window, signifying the end of his lifelong mission to make Heir the heir. Elsewhere, Songju relays to his mother in the prison that he doesn't want to live her dream anymore, and that he has always been miserable. Jiam-soo understands his agony and extends her support. What happens at the stakeholder meeting? There's an emergency stakeholder meeting with the agenda to make Heir the chairman. Inju's wife and Hee-chan joins Heir's side. At the same time, Heir is arrested by the prosecution. Alternatively, Park Sa-jin's daughter is revealed to be the doctor who helped Teo in the prison. She tells his father about how Inju tormented her, that it was impossible for her to survive without drugging herself. Park Sa-jin promises to do his part as her father. Kan Heir's arrest reach the meeting. The scene changes and Park Sa-jin's daughter calls Teo to tell him that her father wants to see Teo. He is able to convince Sa-jin to not support Heir and agrees to let him have Kamo energy in exchange for one share. How is Ji-jun alive? At the same time, Heir is taken for questioning, where we find that Ji-jun is actually alive. In a flashback, we find that the prison doctor, also Park Sa-jin's daughter, found him right after he was attacked, since Teo predicted it. Teo visited Ji-jun to tell him the truth about Heir. It's assumed that Ji-jun testifies against Heir. Back at the Kamo office, the audit team conducts a raid on Heir's department. The chairman seems to be struggling to stay alive in the hospital. Heir receives a letter from the chairman where his surname is changed from Kang to Beck. Elsewhere, Hee-ju asks Teo to visit the Kang residence, where Teo finds the chairman in a wheelchair. What happens to Heir? The scene changes and Heir is sentenced to life imprisonment for his crimes. Teo later meets Heir in prison and asks him why Heir framed Teo. Heir replies that he cannot remember anymore, and maybe because it was Han Teo. Teo leaves Heir with a picture of the three, Teo, Heir, and Haiwon. Hee-ju and Songju have a good relationship now, and Hee-ju leaves for a long trip. Teo meets Haiwon and they discuss briefly about Heir. Later, we find that Heir had hanged himself. How does the impossible heir end? We jump to 3 years later, where Chairman's ambitious citywide project has been completed. Haiwon is working with the congressman again. Songju is in charge of Co-Prosperity Cooperation Center, and Teo has become the chairman of Kamo. In a flashback, we see the chairman acknowledging Teo's efforts to save Kamo and makes him the chairman. Teo later visits Heir at the columbarium. Hee-ju is in Mexico, and Seonhwa-won and Boss Tak are enjoying their vacation sponsored by Teo as a gift. The episode ends with Teo's dream coming true and him saying, "I'm still dreaming for myself." The episode review. As expected, a disappointing finish. Firstly, we have a scene where Songju claims to be miserable. Not once in the entire series did his character express to be miserable. He did follow his mother's orders, but it was clear that Songju wanted to become the heir in the initial episodes, and he suddenly claims that he never wanted to be one. These are the kind of loopholes that arise in this show, which makes it lose its authority over the plot and characters. It seems that the makers wanted to have a heartwarming scene with Songju and Jiam-suk conveniently forgetting initial few episodes. And after a number of episodes, Hee-chan, who briefly featured as Hee-ju's to-be fiancé, appears. We have no clue what transpired with him in the meantime. It seems like the makers introduce a character purely in terms of convenience, disregarding their involvement in the plot. About Park Sa-jin's daughter, we just know she suffered due to Inju, but we have no clue to what actually happened. Again, the show just focusing on surprise gimmicks without much explanation. With so many introduction to fleeting characters, the use and throw kind, we hardly remember them after a week. Moreover, another inconsistency, Teoa's verdict, was a death sentence that seems irrational at the time as well, but now, Enha gets a life sentence for the same act? How does that even add up? And what happened to Gold H Investment? Wasn't Boss Tack supposed to appear as Michael Chang in last week's episode? There are unending questions. It seems every week we are confronted with a new plot. The plot loopholes are so big that they overshadow any of the positives about the show. Hopefully, we will never see a season 2,